Now, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund is charged with the responsibility to manage, disburse, and monitor the education tax to public tertiary institutions in Nigeria. Their required funding is generated by the Tertiary Education Trust Fund Act of 2011, which imposes a 2% education tax on the profits of all registered companies operating in Nigeria. Executive Secretary, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, Sonny Echono, joins us to discuss how Tetfund is contributing to boosting research funding in Nigerian universities, in addition to the need to make research products relevant to the economy. I want to say thank you very much for joining us today.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's start it off by finding out from you. How has Tetfund helped the educational sector in terms of research here in Nigeria? And most importantly, not just research, but domesticating this research to helping grow the economy of Nigeria.
Thank you. Research has been one of our intervention lines from inception, but it received additional fillip and focus in the last 5 years, and indeed particularly in the last 1.5 years, when we try to deepen research and also expand its scope and size. In terms of contributions to the education sector, we have two categories of research. We have what we call institution-based research. This is basically basic research taking place in our institutions that are funded, and this applies to all institutions. Every year they receive allocations that they use to undertake research to basically pursue, if you like, basic principles around research and the foundational aspects of research, and also the publications that are required for their staff to gain promotion and to contribute to the body of knowledge. But we also have the flagship one, which is the National Research Fund. And this was established primarily to underpin the importance of research in the development of our country. Because all over the world it's been proven that it is the academia and the ideas and creativity, the innovations that emanate from them that are incubated in our institutions that are translated into goods and services to service any economy, to improve well-being, to create jobs, to exploit resources, stimulate exports, and so on. And that is where our focus is. We call it research for impact. And in the last few years, there has been a drive to increase our footprints in the area of the content components of our interventions, and research is at the heart of it. So we have designed so many programs to facilitate this. Starting first with the establishment of centers of excellence. We have about, to date, 27 of them now. And what we try to do in those cases is to try and prioritize. We classified our institutions and assess them based on their reputation, based on the strength of faculty and their research interests, and to focus on limited areas so we don't spread ourselves out too thinly. So institutions are known for certain spheres or certain areas of study, and we now try and provide the right facilities, encourage them to hire the right quality of personnel in terms of faculty to undertake cutting-edge research in those fields. And we have 27 of those across the country, the latest among them being the one on diaspora studies that have just been, the board has just been inaugurated at the University of Ibadan. Then we also have what we call Research for Impact programs, a partnership we are running with Innovate here in Abuja. Through that, we've trained, at the last count, up to 178 different teams. Some come in groups of 4, some come as many as 12, 18. And through those trainings, hands-on training, linkage with experts from across the globe, particularly from Israel and other countries, we've been able to produce 95 different prototypes. A lot of these things, it's a silent revolution going on out there in our tertiary institutions that Mr. President has, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu has given us the mandate to try and bring to fore and to also leverage on. So later in the year, you're going to see us have a major fair at the Eagle Square, where we're going to bring a whole lot of this out for Nigerians to see And we'll be inviting private sector, potential investors. We're going to be inviting policymakers, industry, and even the academia to come and rub minds to see how we can commercialize some of these research findings that they can now become more useful to our people in terms of changing and improving their standard of living. Of course, we are establishing innovation hubs, entrepreneurship centers across our campuses, both at the universities, the polytechnics, and at the colleges of education. We realize we are solving problems as we move on. For example, one of the problems we discovered was that the completion rate of our research undertakings. To date, we've done sponsored more than 912 research programs since inception. Half of that are in the last 2 years. So that tells you where the focus is. And of that half, unfortunately for us, the completion rate is still about 15%. And we'll be wondering why this is so. And the reason is partly because of infrastructure. Having modern facilities, modern laboratories, we have situations where samples are being taken abroad, either to the UK, to South Africa, and things like that. And to solve that problem, we are starting with 4 this year. We are going to be establishing modern, multi-purpose research centers in our institutions. And in the first phase, we are doing in Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, and in Kano. And as we move on, we are going to be also expanding to other institutions. And in these centers, they will carry out all forms of tests. We have the right state-of-the-art facilities to undertake research. Again, at the level of institutions, we are also funding various programs to facilitate research. Then, of course, only last week, a couple of days ago, we reconstituted the National Research Fund Screening and Monitoring Committee. And as the name implies, what they do basically is that they advertise and they harness all the potential forms or all the proposals that are out there to undertake research in 13 different thematic areas. And we have identified them based on our national development needs and the relevance in terms of solving national problems, as well as harvesting or exploiting opportunities for growth and development of our economy. So you have things like agriculture and food technology, you have ICT, you have manufacturing and extractive industries, you have human health, because we want to also solve problems around diseases and so on. And so many other areas where we are promoting research. And when they do these advertisements, scholars, research agencies, institutions, sometimes through partnerships and collaborations, they submit proposals, and they screen these proposals with a view to identifying those ones that we fund, and they also monitor to ensure that they are completed. Now, the next stage is uptake of research, because if you do all your research and you leave them in your drawers or on the bookshelves, they will have no relevance to the community. So we want a situation where we bridge that gap between our academia and industry to our what we call the triple helix. Now, some of them are calling it quadruple helix because they're also involving the community. But government, the academia, and industry coming together to ensure that the products of research are translated into direct impact on the population through goods and services, through solutions to common problems, just like we did with the COVID vaccine, for example, and so on.
All right, so what's specific initiative has Tetfund implemented to enhance research capabilities and outcomes in Nigeria tertiary institution? And also, I'd like to find out from you, how does Tetfund ensure that this research output from universities contribute effectively to the Nigerian economy?
Thank you. A very good question. First, we undertook a survey that was done about 5 years ago of research capabilities in our institutions. We repeated that last year in partnership with the World Bank. The IFC came in here to help us assess our institutions in terms of their readiness. And readiness deals with issues about facilities, it deals with the faculty, it deals with the current level, the interest in research, and the conditions for research that exists in those institutions. So we have those baseline studies and we have the data. And on the strength of that, even before we submitted a report to us last year, we already commenced the process of training of our researchers and scholars. So we have trained about 602 to date in cutting-edge research, both at home and abroad. how to undertake research, how to use equipment, the methodologies. We also have a special program with the European Union on Horizon, where we are also providing hands-on guidance and mentorship to our scholars and researchers through the European Union. And as I speak to you, we have different cohorts in about 8 different areas around the country being guided in forming groups, and they are getting mentorship, they are getting access to resources that they will require, and participating as aides, as assistants for top-notch research ongoing, so that they can learn the tools. And we believe that we'll be able to improve our own standing. There has been significant improvement in the last 2 years, and we're very grateful for the ranking that we are currently enjoying. But we still believe we shouldn't be coming behind South Africa and Egypt. We should be number 1 in Africa, and then be looking up to China and India, not to be looking at on the African continent. And that's why I see a whole lot of work for us to do. So we are training our scholars. That's one thing we're trying to do. Secondly, I talked earlier about the fact that we want to ensure that we have facilities to facilitate research. Because no matter if you have these ideas, and that was one of the reasons why some of our scholars leave this country, either the medical doctors or the academicians who leave, some of them complain that they do not have facilities to practice their trade, especially after they've obtained additional or advanced training. So we are modernizing our equipment. We are ensuring that in our laboratories, there will be 24-hour power. So we are giving them independent power. So we don't have to have issues about samples getting destroyed because there was no power and things like that. So again, in the area of facilities. Then in the area of partnerships, creating linkage through the triple helix I hinted earlier, between industry, creating opportunities, venture capital for those who are going to be able to take up these prototypes and translate them to commercialize them. Because ultimately, that should be the goal. Every research outcome that has to be impactful must either solve a problem or create a new product and service, both of which can be consumed profitably, meaning that you now have better ways of doing things or new products being introduced into the market. People will pay for this, and then it will create jobs when you are trying to produce to scale. It will now create wealth by the economies and all the other efficiencies that you are creating. And that is what we are trying to do. So we are dealing with manpower improvement, we are dealing with facilities, we are dealing with the environment for research. And we are working very hard. We've assembled the best brains. When we talk about our own partnerships that we create, we've created an ecosystem that have anybody engaged in research in this country part of our ecosystem. And we're doing very well. We have 5 academies we are collaborating with: the Nigerian Academy of Science, Academy of Engineering, Academy of Medicine, the Academy of Letters. And we have all of these people represented on our research teams to try and drive this process. We have pushed government to a stage where government is now thinking about establishing a national research fund, a fund for both research and innovation. And we believe that as a country, we are not doing enough. Tetfund is a flagship institution for research in the country today. But we also have limitations in terms of our budget. So we believe that if we create a special fund that people can apply to, and then utilize these funds for more breakthroughs in research, then our country will be on the right path to attaining its full potential. Because we're in a knowledge economy today. And all over the world, the competitive tools are basically how you can innovate, how you can create, how you can make products and export, and how you can create efficiencies around what you do. And that is where we should be going.
All right, I would like to hear from you concerning some of the success stories that we've actually witnessed, because you've spoken about investing heavily in research and also the collaborative efforts that you've actually undertaken. So talk to us about some of the success stories that we've actually witnessed from this particular program, briefly.
First, just last week, I got a feedback from the gentleman who developed hearing aids technology and suited for the African environment. And he's receiving a lot of waves now. I mean, he's being acclaimed in the international scientific community. He was in New York a couple of months ago. In Israel, which is a hub for major research activities. Again, he made a presentation to the academy there, And we're now trying to see how, because there's two companies from the United States that are interested in trying to see how we take the next step in translating it into products. One of a young gentleman that we sponsored also for our Innovate program here in Abuja, and on our airport road, developed a device, that caught the eye of some investors from Dubai. And just for them to be able to access, because we also help them to create patents to protect their intellectual property. And just to have access, not to buy him out, to have access, he was paid $2.5 million. Yes, dollars. So you can imagine a lecturer who is battling to whether he's getting 400,000 or less salary in a month, suddenly has that, and he's not even lost the property right. So we are happy for, and this is what we're encouraging our scholars. Don't look out to salaries, you use your brain, that's the most important asset anybody can look for. Either conduct research, come out with new things, write books. Those are the things we want you to be able to do. And we have a whole intervention area in terms of book development and all that, which probably outside the scope of this conversation. But we're encouraging our scholars. So, and right now, as I speak, we have 66 well-researched, peer-reviewed, international standard texts for various subject areas in our tertiary institutions in the pipeline. Last year, we launched 60 of them. This year, 66 will be done before the end of the year, and it will be launched. So we are abolishing the handout system. We are avoiding all situations where some of the unsavory things we hear about our campuses. So we clean the whole thing out. And then by the time we are putting all of this online too, we have Terrace now, where all our students are going to be able to access digital resources online in real time at no cost to them.
Echono.
And
Yes, we want to say thank you very much for your time. This is the much we can actually take today. I will be speaking to Architect Echono, Sonny Echono, who is the Executive Secretary, Tertiary Education Trust Fund. Thank you for your time here.